42 entries, 7 levels. This is the creepy and disturbing doorbell footage Iceberg. We'll start with the strange and slowly work our way to some of the most horrifying and disturbing footage out there. Let's start at the tip of the iceberg. Level 1. Roberto Daniel Arroyo. This happened in Salinas, California. A couple who were out of town at the time started getting notifications on their phones at around 2 a.m., alerts from their home surveillance system. This is what they saw. A man approached their front door and licked their intercom system while staring into the camera. It went on for about 3 hours. The man also relieved himself at their front door, and before leaving, he stole an extension cord from their Christmas lights display. Salinas police identified the man as 33-year-old Roberto Arroyo. Roberto had 3 prior arrests for being under the influence of narcotics and public intoxication. Described by the police as transient, Roberto had no fixed address and lived in many cities around the U.S. Luckily, officers managed to locate and question him. What happened with Roberto after this is unclear. Giant explosion caught by doorbell camera. January 1st, 2022. 911 lines were flooded with calls at around 1:40 a.m. as the entire North Collins Street in Arlington, Texas, was suddenly woken up by the sound of a massive explosion in the middle of the night. The explosion happened near the 4100 block of Viridian Village in a newly built townhouse. Local authorities arrived shortly after to contain the flames and assess the situation. There were no casualties as the house was vacant. The building was utterly destroyed. Nearby houses and cars were damaged to varying degrees. Some people even had to leave their homes due to structural damage caused by the blast and flying debris. Local authorities determined the cause of the explosion to be a gas leak. One Reddit user from the area described the explosion as the loudest sound I'd ever heard and shared more pictures of the destruction. Later, the Arlington Fire Department released a statement on Facebook reminding people to check their gas appliances to avoid another explosion like this. Bull snake attack. This doorbell camera captured the moment a man was bitten by a snake. This happened in Lawton, Oklahoma. Gerald Haywood was visiting his friend Rodley Copeland when a snake attacked him. In the video, we see the exact moment it all happened. Jarrell looked to the side for a moment, and the snake, hidden in the doorframe, pounces at the man and bites him in the face. Jarrell screams in pain, runs inside the house, and tells Rodney to take him to the hospital. The two talk momentarily, with Rodney trying to understand what had happened and initially thinking his friend was joking. After the attack, they got their next-door neighbor to kill the snake with a hammer and took Jarrell to the hospital. Bull snakes, which are common in Oklahoma, aren't poisonous, so Jarrell wasn't in that much danger. He could have lost his right eye if the snake had bitten him a little more to the side, though. The event received media coverage in the state. Jarrell and Rodney gave interviews about what happened, and while the situation was serious, they are in good spirits and now laugh about it. Level 2. Woman narrowly escapes man chasing her. A woman from New York noticed she was being followed late at night. The man trailing her was someone she had just seen moments earlier talking to another person on the street. As she entered the building, the man follows closely behind. As soon as he gets inside the lobby, he sprints towards the woman, who managed to close the door just in time to stop him from invading her apartment. A neighbor's doorbell camera captured the exact moment. The suspect demands that the woman open the door, but defeated, he leaves soon after. The attack happened on the 23rd of September 2021. The man in the footage remains unidentified for 2 weeks. The NYPD offered a $3,500 reward for anyone with information that could lead to his arrest. The man was later identified as 41-year-old Orisha Lucky and arrested by New York police. The perp had an extensive criminal record with 37 prior arrests for burglary. While Orisha is a prolific burglar, no one can say for sure what his intentions were that night. Old woman holding knife. A Ring camera captures the moment a woman walks up to the front door of a house. She appears to be in her 60s and is holding a kitchen knife while displaying eerie, twitchy behavior. The woman tries to ring the doorbell but is unable to, struggling to reach it or doesn't realize that she didn't do it. So she just awkwardly stands at the door, holding the knife. She looks disturbed and anxious, acting paranoid. She shifts her body weight from side to side and constantly glances around, as if searching for someone or something. She also doesn't say a word during the entire video. Whatever her intentions were that night, she left after a couple of minutes, never to be seen again. The video has no backstory, date, location, or follow-up. The identity of the knife-wielding woman remains a mystery. Creepy man would not leave after getting called out. As Jojo Ramirez and her son entered their house, a man calmly approaches. Just as they close the front door, he appears, making it unclear where he came from. Moments later, he begins trying to open their door.
What's that?
Standing nearby, Jojo hears the sound of the stranger attempting to get inside. She asks, "Who's that?" before checking her Ring app, revealing the man outside her home.
Who is that? Get out of here! Get out of here! There's a guy outside, look!
Her attempts to communicate with him are met with eerie silence as he stares blankly at the door. Though he steps back slightly, he remains unfazed by Jojo's anxious demands for him to leave. The man eventually does so. LAPD later explained that the man in the video suffers from mental health issues and sometimes can't remember where he lives. Although that clears things up, it doesn't make the encounter less unsettling. Perverts everywhere. This entry features two similar cases of shady men trying to break into girls' dorms. The first one is from Plymouth, England. The footage uploaded to r/crazy videos shows a man sneaking around a front lawn at 10:52 p.m. He appears to be trying to peek inside the dorm. He messes with a window, but unable to get inside, he runs away when one of the girls notices him. The whole incident was filmed by their Ring camera. This was actually the second time that the same man was seen around the building late at night. User OKUsual9288, who lives in the dorm, responded to comments explaining that they called the police, but they didn't do much. Police dogs searched the immediate area, but that was it. The next story is from San Diego, California. A peeping Tom was caught sneaking around a house in the College area. The man, who can be seen checking for people inside the house, goes straight for the owner's bedroom window. She sees him in the cameras and runs to a windowless room where she calls 911. Police arrived 10 minutes later, but the suspect was long gone. More worryingly, the same house was visited again, and probably by the same man. Residents, which are mainly female college students, complain about how dark the area is at night. With no working streetlights, the neighborhood has seen a criminal activity spike. Just in the last month, there were 2 rapes, 3 sex crimes, 2 shootings, 12 assaults, 5 home burglaries, and 14 car thefts. San Diego authorities have been contacted and promised to fix the light in about a year. We can only hope these people remain safe. Mississauga car theft. A Ring doorbell camera captured the moment a criminal almost killed a man while trying to steal his car. The woman you see ringing the doorbell is a car thief working with a group. She approached the owner of a Porsche SUV pretending to be a buyer. The two talked for a bit, and while she tested the car, she waited for the moment the owner was right behind the massive vehicle to reverse on him. The man was hit but not run over, managing to get up but unable to retake his car as the thief drove away. Having sustained multiple injuries, the owner of the car could not walk for a week, but fortunately did not suffer any broken bones. The video was shared online more than 95,000 times, attracting eyes from all over the world due to how unexpected and brazen the crime was. Local police attribute the suspect's surrender, 18-year-old Sarah Badshaw, to the video's notoriety. Sarah is already a prolific criminal, being wanted for several other crimes in the area. She was charged with theft of a motor vehicle, attempting to commit an indictable offense, and possession of property obtained by crime. Level 3. Sketchy guy mistakes address. This Ring camera video captured a genuinely bizarre encounter. A sketchy-looking man rings the doorbell of a house. He's looking for a woman named Fifi, whom he appears to have a date with.
No, I am Steven. I'm looking for, Fifi.
The man identifies himself as Steven. The house owner clarifies that she isn't the person Steven is looking for, and he tries to make a move on her anyway, though he is straightforward.
Yeah, you got the wrong house.
The woman responds by saying that her husband is in the living room, adding that he's armed for good measure.
Sir, my husband's in the living room with the gun.
This makes Steven back away and leave, acting dismissively towards the woman he just harassed, even though he was so casual just a second ago.
Steven here.
Though this could have been a mix-up, Steven's sudden change in behavior gives him a creepy vibe.
I knew this was a ripoff.
It makes you question his intentions and wonder if he couldn't be something worse than a creep. Plane crashes into car. A Ring camera in Pembroke Pines, Florida caught something terrifying. A plane crashing at full speed into a car. What makes it particularly unfortunate is how sudden it all was. The driver didn't even realize what was happening until the plane hit the car and sent it spinning out of the road. The aircraft then hit a fence and stopped, burning fuel spilling out of it covered the whole area. The accident left 3 dead, the pilot of the aircraft and one of the car's occupants, a 4-year-old child named Taylor Bishop. The sole survivor was the driver, Megan Bishop, Taylor's mother. The plane was a Beechcraft Bonanza flown by 2 unidentified men out of North Perry Airport. They crashed near Southwest 72nd Avenue and Southwest 13th Street. After an investigation, authorities had determined the cause of the accident to be engine troubles. Broward County Major Stephen Geller made an official statement promising to see what we can do.
I understand what people's concerns are, and the county will look and see what else we can do.
As airborne crashes are more common than usual in the area. Couple being followed home. This alarming doorbell footage comes from Kent, Washington. It shows the moment an Asian couple narrowly avoids an attack by an armed criminal. The husband opens the door, and as the wife follows him inside, she notices the incoming criminal and gets inside the house, locking the door at the very last moment, frustrating him. He slams the Ring camera with his pistol until he completely rips it off the wall in an attempt to get rid of evidence. It didn't quite work as the camera had registered everything. The criminal did not make any further attempts to get inside or steal anything and left as quickly as they'd come. One of the suspects in the footage was later identified as 18-year-old Al-Hussein Drameh. He was later arrested for the crime. Al-Hussein and a colleague would later be arrested a second time for committing fatal carjacking. They had seen a car that they liked and thought nothing of killing the owner for it. DoorDash break-in. This footage is from a house in Spring, Texas. It all happened at 2 a.m. when only 2 people were sleeping. A woman knocks on the front door claiming to have a delivery. Nothing appears wrong, as she could be a DoorDash worker. Her hushed tone is strange, but could be chalked up to being late at night. Meanwhile, their backyard camera captures the moment 4 men climb the wall and try to gain access to the house. They attempt to break in through a window out the back, but leave shortly after, fleeing the scene in a black sedan. The group ended up not taking anything with them. As of today, none of the thieves have been identified and arrested, remaining at large. What you saw in the video is a new tactic used by criminals. They attempt to get inside their victims' homes by pretending to be delivery people. Some criminals even create costumes for these actions. Police frequently tell people to avoid opening doors to strangers, as they never know who will be on the other side. Burglar shoots own leg. A Ring camera from Fort Wayne, Indiana captured the moment a criminal gets instant karma. Two armed men try to break down the front door of a house when all of a sudden, the man on the left accidentally pulls the trigger of his pistol. He shoots himself point blank in the right thigh and screams in pain, halting their break-in attempt. The two flee the scene, the wounded criminal still managing to run away, though not for long. The homeowner, Trey Thomas, heard everything and called the police. He was so afraid that he didn't think to check his Ring camera. Luckily, it filmed everything.
I was in such shock at the fact that somebody was at my front door like that I didn't even think to look at my phone.
Since the suspect had been filmed and left blood on the scene, tracking him down was very easy. 18-year-old Keanu Cook was found and arrested by Fort Wayne police in a local hospital. While Trey has no idea why the duo targeted his home, Keanu revealed that he needed money to pay for the bail of a different crime he had committed. His accomplice was never identified and remains at large. What happened to Keanu Cook after this is unknown. Homeowner fends off intruders. Uploaded to r/crazy videos, the footage shows a gang of at least 6 men trying to break into a house in the UK. They show up in 2 cars armed with blunt weapons and knives and ready to invade the house. The criminals try to break down the door, but they eventually give up and break the door window and open it from the inside. While they run in and out of the entrance of the house, they meet the homeowner, who is armed. The gang runs away as soon as they see him, and he follows the group, firing on them. The homeowner is able to fend off the intruders single-handedly. If any of the criminals were wounded or killed, or if British police ever caught them, is unknown. Redditors from r/crazy videos who reviewed the footage theorized that this was a targeted attack, maybe some sort of a drug dispute. The video lacks context, dates, exact location, or a follow-up, so we'll never know what happened that night. Intruder stands outside woman's apartment for a month. This happened in 2023 in Dallas, Texas. A Ring camera registered a man who stood in front of a woman's apartment for an entire month. He would show up late at night and stand in place for hours, almost completely still, staring right into the camera. It is as if he knew his victim would see him through it. He would then leave as suddenly as he had arrived. The victim shared on X, Twitter, that security had been looking for the man. Some of her family members even confronted him, which must have worked as no further updates about the situation were given. It is unknown how this man managed to break in and out of a building with security guards multiple times without getting caught. East Haven fake delivery. Criminals disguising themselves as delivery persons have become increasingly common. They do that to get homeowners to open their doors. A Ring camera in East Haven, Connecticut, captured one such crime. The robber is wearing a reflective orange vest and holding an envelope.
I don't think this is for you.
When the victim opens the front door, the criminal draws a handgun from his pocket and tries to push his way inside the house. The homeowner pushes him back, and he almost falls, managing to keep his balance by holding on to the door. The criminal decides to run away and gets inside a silver and black Nissan pickup. The car speeds off into the distance. East Haven police initially struggled to identify the man, so they posted images and clips of the footage online. As tips began pouring in, police were able to identify and track down Xavier Ortero, the robber. He was hiding in a family member's house. He was charged with home invasion, first-degree threatening, and possession of a firearm. Authorities then arrested Carrasquillo Torres, the getaway driver. He was charged with conspiracy to commit home invasion and unlawful restraint. He was also charged with narcotics and weapons-related charges after authorities found drugs and firearms in his home. Level 4. Violent creep. This doorbell video from the UK shows an unhinged man trying to kick down the front door of a house. We see the man charging at the door, kicking it with full force. He takes a moment to recompose with every kick, but doesn't seem to get any less angry. After 3 attempts, he smashes the doorbell camera with a bike lock. The video by itself is terrifying, but his background is what makes it genuinely heart-wrenching. He was identified as Gulwali Stanekse, an immigrant from Afghanistan. Gulwali was cycling along Minna Avenue in northwest London when he saw the victim, Aisha Waris, 23, walking alone. He chased after her, and Aisha began running. Eventually, he caught up with her and cycled his bike onto her body. She ran away from him into a front garden, but he caught her again and began beating her. The man in the house opened the door to let her in. Gulwali turned his fury on a Toyota Prius parked out and caused 3,445 pounds worth of damage to the car. What happened after that are the events we see in the video. Ms. Waris called the police and her father. Her father was met with a hail of blows from Gulwali and had to flee the scene. Both she and her father needed hospital treatment, but their injuries were not life-threatening. Gulwali Stanekse was sentenced to 3 years in prison after admitting to assaulting Aisha Waris. He also issued his reserved apologies to the victims through his barrister. The people he left were bloodied and traumatized. Woman hears someone pleading for help. A Reddit user posted a minute-long Ring camera video to r/ghosts of a mysterious voice. In it, we see a woman doing her laundry until she hears a feminine voice asking for help. She stops and pays attention to what's going on. The video then cuts to her speaking with police officers to report the strange occurrence. This 2019 video does not provide much information. The original poster claims the woman in the video is his friend's wife. Reddit users speculated that the Ring camera was hacked and that the hacker was pranking the woman. The OP clarified that the voice came from outside and not the device. Due to the poor quality of the audio, even what the voice said was debated. People heard anything from suggestive moaning to thinking the voice was actually masculine. Without any follow-up, what happened that day remains a mystery. Man tries to invade a home using a crowbar. In March 2022, a doorbell camera recorded a conspicuously dressed man walking up to the front door of a house in San Antonio, Texas. He gently tried to detach the camera before trying the handle to see if the door was locked. Seeing as that didn't work, the man pulls out a crowbar from his backpack and begins forcing the lock. As he attempts to break into a house in broad daylight, he looks around, gestures, and talks to a lookout who's with him. It was not as quiet as he thought. The house occupants heard the noise coming from the door and started screaming. The criminals panicked and fled the scene soon after. Police immediately identified the man in the video as Sebastian Beltran and arrested him. Sebastian even stated that he fled after hearing the screams of children because he had a heart. He also claimed to be suffering from financial difficulties. None of that changes things, as his victims are now traumatized and Sebastian is in jail. Pennsylvania house explosion. A massive fiery explosion destroyed a house in Plum, Pennsylvania. A Ring camera recorded the exact moment and showcased part of the destruction it caused. It destroyed 2 nearby houses, damaged 12 others, and sent debris all over the area. 18 fire departments responded. 57 firefighters had to be treated on site for minor injuries while trying to control the flames. The explosion killed Heather Orovitz and her husband, Paul Orovitz. Neighbors Kevin Sabunia, Michael Thomas, Casey, and Keegan Klontz also lost their lives in the fire. All the victims were part of local sports teams in Plum and were honored by their community. Local students even collected money to help other victims of the accident. Local authorities launched an investigation. Gas services were suspended out of fear that a leak caused the explosion, but they were later restored as there was no link between the two. Officials predicted the investigation would take years, and they've been right so far. No answers have been given to this day. Girl escapes kidnapping. This 50-second long doorbell video was posted on the r/creepyrings subreddit. It shows a girl escaping a duo of kidnappers. The girl, seen hurriedly opening the door, noticed two men following her on her way home. She escapes them in the nick of time, getting inside her house and locking the door as one of them touches the handle. He even tries to force the door open before signaling to his accomplice. At the same time, you can hear the terrified girl calling her mother. One of them holds a piece of cloth, probably with chloroform on it. He gestures for the other one to check around the house for more entry points, but soon after, the mother threatens to call the police, and the two exit the scene. The video ends abruptly and lacks any sort of background or follow-up. Hopefully, it ended when they left the house and they did not attempt to make another entry. Woman uses doorbell camera to call husband during home invasion. TikTok user Leah Amberly uploaded a video of herself using the house's Ring camera to call her husband.
Jake! Jake!
Their house in Allen, Texas was being invaded by two men. It was an early night and Leah had just put her two sons to bed. She undresses and takes a bath, and it's during her bath that two men break into the house. At first, she thinks it's her husband Jake walking around and knocking on her door, until the two criminals break down the bathroom door. The two men were covered head to toe in black clothing. Leah pleaded with them not to hurt her or her children and let them take anything from the house.
As I'm looking at the guy saying, take whatever you want, just don't hurt my kids, don't hurt my kids, he steps closer to me and goes, don't fucking move, stay right here, don't fucking move or I'm going to kill you. Like, he's just yelling in my face and threatening me.
They take her phone and order her to stay in the bathroom. But as soon as they leave, she runs to her children's rooms to check on them. Making sure the two boys are okay, Leah tries to use her Alexa and a computer to call 911, but cannot. She manages to get to her room and activate the house alarm. It must have scared off the intruders as she ran out of the house and tried calling a neighbor for help, but nobody answered. Without much she could do, Leah rang the doorbell, hoping her husband would see the Ring app.
What's going on?
Call the police.
Call the police?
Please.
What happened?
I was in the bath. I thought you were home. Someone brought her back to where these two guys walked in. I begged them not to hurt the kids.
Jake answered, and the police arrived soon after. Allen police so far haven't been able to identify any suspects. On TikTok, Leah was criticized as users tried to poke holes in her story and question her decisions. People were especially critical of her choosing to take her dog with her, but not her children. What would you have done? By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, don't hesitate to subscribe down below. Thanks. Jackpot winners followed home and attacked. A couple who were celebrating having won $3,000 at the Seminole Hard Rock Casino are attacked by criminals at the front door of their house. Their doorbell camera captured the entire ordeal. As they were exiting the vehicle, the husband was shot 2 times. As the couple makes a break for the house, the man is shot 2 more times, and his wife gets shot in the back of her calf. You can see the man collapsing and getting shot a 4th time as his wife screams in desperation. As the situation was getting even more tense, the men fled and the police arrived shortly after, taking the couple to the hospital. The husband had lost a lot of blood, but ultimately survived. The couple, Val de la Cruz and Kim Chambly, were followed by the trio even before leaving the casino. This is a common type of crime as criminals case casinos for unsuspecting people to rob. 2 suspects, Marcus Jenkins, 34, and Tristan Wright, 36, were identified and arrested. Marcus is the one we saw in the doorbell video. Jenkins was charged with attempted murder, robbery with a firearm, aggravated battery causing great bodily harm, and possession of a firearm as a felon. Wright was charged with being a principal to attempted murder, aggravated battery, and robbery with a firearm. A third individual, the driver, remains unidentified. Level 5. Robbers jump homeowner. This woman is getting inside her house when two robbers following her decide to strike. The entire situation lasted only 20 seconds and was captured by her Ring camera. The woman and another person inside the house are held at gunpoint by the robbers. You can hear the gunmen saying, "Don't move," before the door closes and their voices become muffled. The victims, who remain unidentified, said that the men demanded their car keys. Another suspect holds the door open for the gunman, and the two leave right after. This happened at 9:12 p.m. on August 10th, 2021, in the 1400 block of West Hansler Court in Peoria, Illinois. Police arrived shortly after and chased the stolen vehicle but had to stop due to rainy weather. According to Peoria police, one of the men was in the stolen vehicle and the other fled on foot. A third unseen suspect was also involved in the crime. One of the suspects was identified as 18-year-old Brandon McGrew. Two unidentified 17 and 16-year-old males are also in custody. They were questioned and arrested. McGrew was charged with home invasion, armed robbery, and motor vehicle theft. He would have faced 30 years in prison, but was released on bond. The two minors were charged with criminal trespass to a vehicle and are being held in a detention center. Masked trio attempts to break into house. This mysterious Ring camera video has no known backstory, location, or follow-up. All we know is that it happened on January 10, 2022 at 5 a.m., most probably in the U.S. The video shows a trio of criminals readying themselves and attempting to pick the lock of a house. The trio uses weird masks and looks straight out of the first Purge movie. Two of them are armed, one with an assault rifle and another with a handgun. The one with the rifle covers the camera with his hand, and that's all we can see for most of the video until he lets go of the device. The homeowner wakes up to all the movement notifications he is receiving. Checking the camera, he tries to speak to the intruders through the device, but gets no response from them. He then calls the police, but the trio is long gone when they arrive. Doorbell camera registers murder attempt. A doorbell camera captured a cold-blooded murder attempt in a North London street. The crime happened near Bounces Road in Edmonton around 6:30 p.m. on January 14th. The video shows two men being approached by a trio on bikes. The groups exchange words as if confirming their identities before one of the cyclists pulls out a handgun. The gunman closes the distance between him and the target and fires twice at point-blank range. The victims flee, and one of them can be heard screaming, "It's not me." The three suspects chased them out of the camera's sight. London police were called and arrived soon after. An investigation found no blood in the area, revealing that the gunman missed his target. Another detail is that the victim uses the term wagwan, a slang commonly used in Jamaican diaspora communities, to ask what's going on. So, all five men were likely of Jamaican origin or descent. The police have shared no information, but it is believed that this was a hit job gone wrong. Brisbane crime spree. A security camera captured the beginning crime of a spree in Brisbane, Australia. A trio of thieves break into a house on Pockley Street, Brisbane, by taking a pair of scissors to their screen door. Searching the house, they even enter the bedroom of the family's 3-year-old. Fortunately, he wasn't sleeping there. They leave the house with some of the family's belongings and the keys to their truck, which they use to escape. At around 2 a.m., the same criminals pull up to a house on Oberon Street in a stolen Mazda. They break into the home of Adam Mulheron and exit in just a few minutes, having stolen his keys and taken his car. Adam later spoke in an interview with 9 News, saying that this was the second time his vehicle had been stolen from his home.
They'd got through the house and got the handbag with the keys in it and took off with the car. It makes you feel sick and dirty that this is happening and happening so often. This is the second vehicle we've had stolen.
The same night, they stole a car in the parking lot of a Jets gym. The group committed 2 break-ins, at least 3 thefts, and 4 car thefts. Authorities know the identity of the criminals but have declined to share any details. So far, no arrests have been made, and the trio remains at large. Off-duty cop almost gets run over. An off-duty police officer from Decatur, Alabama is attacked in his front yard by a man in a Jeep. The house's Ring door camera registered the whole thing. In the video, we see the moment Officer Jack Brown dodges the Jeep, uses his radio to call for backup, and runs inside his house to retrieve his gun. He comes out a few moments later and attempts to arrest this attacker, who does not comply. It seems the man was trying to flee, but he once again sped toward Officer Brown and hit him. The video ends here. Brown still managed to get up and, with the help of a civilian, subdued and arrested his attacker. Brown had to be hospitalized and treated for multiple injuries. The attacker was identified as 54-year-old Gregory Hill. Earlier, Jack had noticed the Jeep parked near his house for some time and went to speak with the driver. Gregory began cursing at Brown and returned, hitting a nearby car. What happened after this are the events we see in the video. In an interview with a local news outlet, Brown's wife said they did not know Gregory and did not know his motivations.
Very stressful, very traumatic event, but we're definitely lucky it wasn't more serious than what it was. I get here and coming over the little hill up the road, there's just cop cars everywhere, the whole block, and my stomach just dropped. It was an absolute nightmare.
Decatur police also could not explain. Brown was released from the hospital a few days later. Gregory was charged with attempted murder, and his bail was set to $1 million cash. 3 women attacked in Philadelphia. This video is from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It shows a group of women being attacked in the middle of the street. You can see a man walking down the street and approaching the trio of women before punching one of them. The punch is strong enough that you can hear the impact. She's knocked to the ground, her friends scream, and the man attacks the woman closest to him. He pushes her to the ground and punches her in the head several times. The others try to intervene and are attacked again. The man then randomly stops, paces around, and almost charges at one of the victims, but doesn't attack her and leaves. Another man approaches the trio to check on them, and this is where the video ends. This happened on June 15, 2022. The group of friends were walking along an East Passyunk sidewalk when they were attacked. When police arrived, the suspects had already escaped. Philadelphia police were able to arrest the suspect after he carjacked a woman. 36-year-old Malcolm White is believed to have committed at least 2 other similar crimes in Philadelphia. He was released from prison in January after serving a 12-year sentence for drug and assault charges. What happened to Malcolm afterwards is unknown, and there are no updates on the case. Level 6. Child kidnapped in front of her mother. Rachel Sweet and her daughter, 8-year-old Salem Sabatka, were out for a walk around their neighborhood in Fort Worth, Texas. That's when they were attacked. A man ran up to the two and snatched Salem from her mother in broad daylight. Salem was thrown inside his car, a gray Ford 500. As Rachel screamed for help and tried to pull her daughter from the vehicle, the man drove off. This happened at 6:30 p.m. on May 19, 2019. A neighbor's Ring doorbell cam had partially recorded the incident. Jim Sluck, the neighbor, was one of the first people to show up to help Rachel. Another neighbor called 911 and Rachel spoke with the police. Soon, cop cars swarmed the entire region. Detectives spoke with Rachel and the other witnesses. They realized Sluck's Ring camera could hold valuable information, and they were right. Using the footage from the camera, they were able to identify the vehicle. As police and the Fort Worth community mobilized to find Salem, authorities issued an Amber Alert, which locals shared on social media. As people searched for Salem, a local pastor named Jeff King spotted the Ford 500 parked outside the Wood Springs Suites Hotel in Forest Hill. Police had been there and checked the suspect's room, but overlooked a laundry basket where he hid his victim. This time, the police returned at around 2 a.m. and stormed the room, arresting the suspect and rescuing the girl. You can watch the entire thing online. Salem was brought to a hospital where she stayed for a few days. Her family publicly thanked the police, the community, and especially Jeff King. The suspect, now under police custody, was identified as 51-year-old Michael Webb. Webb was known for making terroristic threats and even sexually assaulted a woman in Smith County. He only walked free because the victim failed to show up to court multiple times. Now, he serves a life sentence for aggravated kidnapping. Santa Claus. A hacker accessed a family security camera in DeSoto County, Mississippi. He used their Ring camera to harass and scare their 8-year-old daughter. He lures the girl to her bedroom by making loud noises and playing music through the Ring camera there. Alyssa LeMay, who shares the room with her 2 sisters, investigates the sounds. She turns the light on, and as she looks around her room, the hacker begins harassing her.
Hello there.
He calls Alyssa racial slurs, tries to creep her out with music, and even encourages her to destroy her room.
Who is that?
I'm your best friend. You can do whatever you want right now. You can mess up your room. You can break your TV. You can do whatever you want.
Alyssa appears confused, not knowing what to do after attempting to talk with the hacker. She calls her mother, Ashley. That's where the footage ends. The hacker presumably just disconnected from the camera. Speaking with a local news outlet, Ring claimed they would do something to help. In the meantime, Ring suggests users change their passwords and set up 2-factor authentication. Hackers use stolen data from other services to attack accounts on multiple platforms. The situation could be worse, as nobody knows for how long they've been spied on. Man guns down assailant. This 18-second video shows the moment a criminal gets shot by his victim in self-defense. The victim is unaware he was followed back home until the criminal announces himself. The victim instinctively reaches for his handgun and confronts the masked man. They exchange a few words before weapons are drawn and shots fly. In this case, the criminal was struck twice in the stomach and hit the ground. This was a clear case of self-defense. The situation escalated after their unheard exchange, with the masked man drawing first. Thankfully for the victim, he was faster on the draw. The victim lacks any background or follow-up. This happened on September 26 at around 12:45 p.m. with no official report or statement on the incident released. We can only imagine what happened with the suspect and what his intentions were. Real-life zombie. This happened on December 22, 2018. A woman from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina was startled by a loud noise from her front door. Using her phone to see who it was, this is what her Ring camera showed. A man covered in mud and blood body slamming her front door. He not only looked like a zombie, but groaned like one. The zombie falls over and appears to pass out dangling from the woman's porch. On the other side of the door, the house's owner, Savannah Brotherton, got her self-defense firearm and was ready for the man to break in, when he never did. The video ends abruptly just before the man gets up and leaves. Police arrived in just 4 minutes, but he was already gone. After speaking with Savannah, they searched for him and found the man just across the street, lying in a ditch. He was taken to a nearby hospital for treatment. The Myrtle Beach zombie was identified as Anthony Saporita. He was not charged initially, but later local police obtained a warrant for attempted burglary. What happened with Anthony after that is unknown, so the zombie could still be out there. Man attempts to burn down neighbor's house. A homeowner in Stockton, California was surprised when checking her Ring door camera at 2 a.m. and saw this. A man dousing her front door and porch in fuel and trying to light her house on fire. The man carried a yellow can used for storing diesel and poured the liquid everywhere. He also left diesel-soaked rags on the ground. The man tries to start a fire, but diesel has a high flash point, so after a few attempts, he just gives up and leaves. Luckily, even for him, He acts so recklessly that he could have easily set himself on fire had he used a more flammable substance. The victim, who had many people, including 2 young children with her inside the house, called 911. Firefighters and police arrived shortly after. Once the house occupants were safe, the homeowners spoke with officers, showing them the footage. They identified the man as 38-year-old Quang Pham, a neighbor across the street. Pham was arrested for attempted homicide and arson. A neighbor said that people were aware of Pham's history of drug abuse and strange behavior. He would go around the neighborhood ringing doorbells and asking for money. Quang had bothered the family before by incessantly ringing the doorbell. While the victim did not know Quang or why he wanted to harm her, Quang told the police he was trying to get rid of ghosts he saw there. Level 7. Holy Spirit. A couple in Las Vegas was terrified by a strange man knocking on their door. Through their Ring camera, he would share with them the gruesome details of what he had in mind.
I just had a couple questions. I just wanted to ask you about Abyssal.
This video begins with a man knocking on the door while repeating the same things over and over. His odd behavior, coupled with his creepy looks, makes him intimidating. As the video progresses, he insists on knocking on the door while trying to see inside the house. On the other side of the door, a woman desperately calls her husband, who's currently at work. He calls the police and uses the Ring app to confront the man. Already leaving, the stranger turns around to candidly talk to her husband about raping and murdering the woman inside the house. He then finally leaves. The video was shared on Facebook and garnered 60,000 views. It helped to locate the suspect, who Las Vegas police arrested after being recognized. Calling himself Holy Spirit, police later identified the man as 40-year-old Christopher Sums. Christopher had 3 criminal warrants, 2 in Minnesota and 1 in California. His criminal record includes 2 assaults, one of which was a felony, and violating probation.
I have a knife and a gun.
He was charged with aggravated stalking and attempting a residential burglary. Hazelwood arsonist. A Ring camera in Hazelwood, Missouri registered a man setting a house on fire in the middle of the night. The man scooters to their front porch, sets an object on fire using a lighter, and leaves it burning right next to the house's wall. He scoots away without looking back. Since most American houses are made of wood, the fire spreads rapidly. Richard Miller, a neighbor, was driving back home and saw the fire, calling 911. The homeowners were asleep at the time but were awakened by the fire alarm and their dog barking. They were forced to exit the building with whatever they could carry and wait for the firefighters. In the morning, the fire had been controlled and their house and cars were completely destroyed. While investigating the source of the fire, they discovered the footage of a man setting their house on fire. Hazelwood police were able to identify and arrest him in just a few hours, still wearing the same clothes he used in the footage. 28-year-old Joshua Thomas was a neighbor of the Lincolnbergs and had been scooting up and down the street the whole night. He picked the house at random to burn down in a meaningless act of arson. Though being the victim of a random act of violence is scary, what Craig and Teresa Lincolnberg feel the most is grief over all they lost that night. Joshua was charged with first-degree arson. He's in custody at the St. Louis County Justice Center and is being held on a $150,000 cash-only bond. Crying Girl. Uploaded to r/creepyring by user Base Shadow. The video shows a girl running up to the front door of the user's house and knocking on it late at night. He didn't answer her. She can be seen running back and forth between the door and a column she hides behind, as if avoiding the car lights in the top left corner of the video. The girl leaves soon after things have cleared for her. The next day, the poster checked his Ring camera app in the morning and saw what had happened, which he then posted on Reddit. Commenters who reviewed the footage speculated about the girl's identity and motives. The most common theory is that the girl is Krista Nicole Cordeau, a local criminal who was fleeing the police. Krista was known for burglarizing homes in El Paso, Texas. The poster remarked that the lights in the video are from a police car, lending more credence to the theory. The video could easily be recontextualized as footage of a criminal fleeing police. The post is scarce on details, but Base Shadow claims to have presented the footage to the police. They haven't shared any details with him after that, leaving the case a mystery. Woman screams for help in the back of a car. On November 12, 2019, residents of a suburban neighborhood in Los Angeles awoke to the sound of blood-curdling screams in the night. They were coming from a white Prius speeding down the street with its boot open. A Ring camera captured the screams of the victim and the moment the white Prius drove by. Shortly after, people exit their homes and watch in horror as the car drives away. This happened in the Los Angeles Leimert Park area at around 11:30 p.m. The LAPD was only called much later in the morning. Police watched the footage and spoke with witnesses, noticing more details. Besides the victim, you can hear a man screaming, "I'm sorry." Witnesses described the victim as a black female and the suspect as a black male. They later even found another image of the Prius. These clues weren't enough to pinpoint the identity of the two people in the video. The descriptions match several recent disappearances in the city. The case received moderate media coverage, but there were no breakthroughs. Thus, the identities of the victim and the suspect remain a mystery.